Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be focusing on the Global Forest Watch tool Map Builder, which just recently launched. But before we go into the how-tos and the where it's from, I'd like to give a little bit of a basic outline of what's going to be happening during this webinar today. We will have the opportunity to answer any questions that you might have during this webinar. There is a chat or a question box specifically in your GoToMeeting browser. You can go to this panel or to this box in the panel and type in any question that you might have, and we will be pausing throughout the webinar after certain segments and answering those questions out loud. If we do not get to your question, it is merely because of the high volume, and we actually do take our time after the webinar to write up answers to all of the questions and post them on the Global Forest Watch discussion forum, to which we then send out the link. Also, due to the number of attendees, we cannot stop, unfortunately, if you are experiencing any connectivity problems. But we are recording this webinar and we'll be posting it online afterwards, again, and we'll be sending you the link. So first I want to give a little background on Global Forest Watch for those who aren't familiar with the platform. Like I said, this webinar is focusing on the Map Builder tool, but we want to make sure you have some context for the how-tos later on. This is Global Forest Watch, and the main component of our website is often the interactive map. This map shows where trees are being lost and gained using satellite-based data, and the whole platform was actually launched only in 2014. Since then, we've grown to 1 million users for the website and host over 100 data sets for different areas of forests and countries around the world. But because we also want to make sure that the tools are as useful as possible, we focus in on certain use cases as well. So we have websites that look at fires and haze. We have a website that focuses on commodity supply chains such as soy, beef, and palm oil. We have a website that also focuses on the carbon emissions from tropical deforestation, as well as a brand new website that focuses on tree cover loss in watersheds around the world. This suite is always growing, and Map Builder definitely plays across this suite. And we encourage you to look at these tools if you're interested in any of these specific areas. But we also encourage you to tune in to what Global Forest Watch is publishing in terms of research, as well as what our users are doing around the world. You can submit and read user stories. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, as well as our discussion forum, which is a great place to meet other GFW users. And if you have any more questions about the website or who our partners are, you can always look at our About section. Because Global Forest Watch is actually a partnership of over 100 different organizations, businesses, and governments. And they are the ones who are really bringing together all this information, especially on the Global Forest Watch map, which I've just clicked to. And this partnership is also, in a way, complementing some of the work that we do in terms of being able to build tools like Map Builder, which allows you to customize the data for yourself. So before we go into that Map Builder tool, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of our GFW map so that you can understand what we're building off of later on. So what you're seeing here is tree cover loss and tree cover gain in blue and purple. This is our legend. Any data that you add or subtract will appear here. This is our toolbar where you can zoom in, zoom out, share your web page, hide your windows, or search for any location on the map as well. So not only is this data spatial, you can also press play on the timeline or hone in by grabbing the panels and zoom into a specific year and see when exactly this tree cover loss or gain occurred. And over here you can perform analyses, change the base map, or view high-resolution satellite imagery. But essentially, what you're seeing here is a layer of pixels. That is all gathered by using satellite images that have algorithms sort of looking over them for areas where tree cover has either been lost or gained. And when you can zoom in, you can really see how each of these areas, each pixel is actually a 30 by 30 meter area, which is about the size of a baseball infield. And not only can you, for instance, turn on satellite data to see how this information matches with what's going on the ground, but like I said earlier, you can upload or draw a shape. You can select a province or state or an entire country to analyze, or look at other data layers. But for instance, if I start clicking around the map, say this is a farm that I own, and I want to know what's happening on the farm, I can analyze automatically to see how much area this covers and how much tree cover loss occurred within this area. We also have, sorry, I'm going to close this. We also have other ways of analyzing tree cover change, depending on what you're looking for. Measurements of where forests are around the world and what kinds of forests they might be, who is using the forest or the land surrounding it, what sort of conservation areas they are, such as natural parks or biodiversity hotspots, who is living on the land, and what sort of stories are coming from that area. Also, if you're looking at a particular country, you can search here and see if there are any data sets specific to that country. We do have quite a few of them at the moment. So now that we have a little bit of an overview of the Global Forest Watch map and what it can do, I want to actually hand it over to focus on the map builder, which is why we're here today.
Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm the product manager of Map Builder. Before we go into the details of Map Builder, I actually want to go on a little tangent to tell you our motivation behind building it and where this came from. So before we built the original Global Forest Watch platform, we already had country engagement in different countries across the world. And most of these countries were in Central Africa. And based on out of these projects, we had different products, which were the forest atlases, which were interactive maps, which were used as a forest cadastre or to give an overview about the activities inside the different countries in the forest. These were then later integrated into our national strategies of Global Forest Watch, and we tried to combine these national country data together with the global data coming from Global Forest Watch. So as a result, we were building a mapping platform which were tailored to the country needs, which was using Global Forest Watch data, but data were actually updated not by our Global Forest Watch team, but by our in-country partners, which for here example we see the forest atlas of the Democratic Republic of Congo. These data are updated by the Forest and Environment Ministry in DRC. The forest atlases follow a very similar approach than like Global Forest Watch. The main differences are that we don't have the same categories you can see on the Global Forest Watch website, but we have categories which are defined by the different countries. So looking at this map, we see here right now the land allocation in DRC with the different forest titles, mining concessions, the petroleum licenses. And we also show other map themes which go into more details. For example, here we have a map theme which is showing the status of different mining permits and how they are allocated. We also show other themes, like for example, we have detailed maps on the forest concessions, and we show what kind of companies are active in these forest concessions and from which countries they are coming from. So we have on this platform a bit more flexibility on how we want to present the data and what kind of content we want to put on the map and how we want to have the users interact with this data. Aside from that, we have all the main features which also come from forest atlases. So I can still identify any feature on the map, and to see what is behind it. Sorry, I'm clicking here on the wrong feature. So I can see the attribute values or metadata behind each of these titles, which are shown on the map, which have detailed information on who is active, when this permit was granted, and when it was last updated. But I also can run analysis which come directly from Global Forest Watch to see what kind of tree cover dynamic we have within this area. But I could also go into more details and just have like an annual resolution and see like what happens in this area for every year. Same as other analysis like active fires, above ground biomass loss, and other and land cover dynamics. The website is bilingual, so we can choose between different languages. You have French and English. French is the main language spoken in DRC, beside the local languages, and then but we can also switch and have this visualized in English if you want to. So since we were building this platform, we did this for several countries, and we noticed that it became quite a challenge to actually update these different country websites one by one. So we were thinking of building a more like a scalable platform which can be used for many different use cases. And at the same time, we also got lots of user requests from the Global Forest Watch platform, which were asking us to allow people to show their own data in Global Forest Watch, or to use Global Forest Watch around their campaigns, or like within their project websites. So we started scoping to see how this is possible, and we identified the ArcGIS online mapping platform, which allows us to build web mapping applications, which can then be reused by many different users and customized for different use cases. The current version of the Forest Atlases are already built on this platform, and which we now call Map Builder. And today we're going to show you how you can build similar applications like the Forest Atlas using this platform. An example, the Forest Atlases are very complex applications, but you can also keep it very simple. For example, here we have a small website which shows one protected area in the Republic of Congo. And here we wanted to highlight recently allocated gold mining permits which fall inside the national park. So this is just a small standalone website which we want to share with partners to highlight the case and to explain better the current conflict which we observed here. And we were using this website just to communicate our cause. So you can go from very complex websites to just little showcases. So I pass on now to Carla, who's going to walk you through the different steps and explain to you how you actually build your own application based on Map Builder.
Thank you, Tomas. So my name is Carla Rentschler. I'm the website coordinator for Global Forest Watch. And we sent out a little survey before this webinar and found out about half of you are pretty familiar with ArcGIS Online, which is the GIS platform that Map Builder is built off of. But for those of you that aren't familiar with ArcGIS, it's a web-based GIS software that lets you map and analyze data in online platforms. And one thing that makes this website different from other GIS software is that it's built for sharing. So it lets you build maps that you can then share with other people who can interact with the data and the tools that you have enabled in your map. And ArcGIS lets you do that in two main ways. One is by building web maps. And web maps are just interactive displays of geographic information. So this is an online map where you upload your data and you can customize it. And an ArcGIS web application actually takes it one step further by turning your web map and the data that you put there into an interactive application that works on multiple devices and doesn't require coding to create. So this lets you create more advanced features that you want your specific audience to use. And Map Builder is a template that we developed for web applications in ArcGIS Online. And because ArcGIS is a complex GIS software, some of the tools are actually restricted to organizational accounts. So if your company or your organization purchases certain licenses, but we developed Map Builder so that it works for both public and organizational accounts. So first, today we're going to walk through the steps for building an app with a Map Builder template with a public account. And then at the end, time permitting, we'll go over the steps for the organizational account as well. So this is ArcGIS Online, and the first step is to sign in. If you don't have an account yet, it's very easy to create one. You can either sign in with Facebook or Google or enter your own information. So we're going to log in with our demo account. So this is ArcGIS Online, and the first step to creating your Map Builder application is to actually create the web map. So this is the ArcGIS web map. This is where you'll add data and customize it for what you want to show in your application. So click on Add to add layers to your map. You can either search for data that ArcGIS has online, add layer from a web service, or actually upload your own data if you have it stored. So we're going to search for Global Forest Watch layers, and the majority of the data sets that are available on the Global Forest Watch Open Data Portal are actually also loaded into ArcGIS, so you can find those here and add them to your custom map. So we're going to just search, and all of the Global Forest Watch data sets are tagged with they're uploaded by the user Global Forest Watch, so that's how you know that they're official data sets. So we're going to create a map that focuses on oil palm concessions in Indonesia. So you just click Add to add data to your map, and then you can see it show up here. And when you're done adding your data, you click Done Adding Layers. And then under Content, you now see the data sets that you've added to your map. So here you can do a couple of things with the data. You can see a table that has all of the attributes and other information that comes along with the data. So you can see all of the values that are stored. You can also filter the data according to an attribute. So if you know a specific company, for example, for concession data, you can then filter the data that shows up on the map, and it'll save that filter. And you can also style the data. So you can either style it according to the attribute information. So for example, if we choose this company group, then the data is filtered or stylized according to the company group that it belongs to. But we're actually just going to keep it one color for today. So you can choose the symbol or the color for the data that you want to show on the map. And once you're done styling it, you can go back and you can see the data. You can click on specific points to get the attribute or metadata information for that specific concession or the other data that you upload. And once you're done with adding all of your data to your map, you need to save it. So give your map a title. Add some tags. And save it to your folder. And then you can share it. So you can either choose to make your web map public, meaning that anyone can access it, or you can actually keep it private, and then later on when you add your map to your web application, only people with a password will be able to access it. So depending on whether you're sharing your data publicly or not, you can change this setting. So now you're done creating your web map, and you now need to put it into a web application. So if you go to My Content, which is where ArcGIS saves all of your maps and applications that you've created, you go to Add Item and say Create an Application. And this is where you need to change the purpose to configurable, since you're going to be customizing your application according to the features that we make available through Map Builder. And you need to type in the URL that goes along with the Map Builder, which all of this information is also available on our how-to portal, and we'll also send around all the links afterwards. So if you're interested in doing this on your own, you can go back to it. And you'll notice that I typed in a version number. So the basic Global Forest Watch Map Builder URL is just my.gfw-mapbuilder.org, and then there's versions. And we update these versions when we do bug fixes or update features. And if you select the latest version, then your web app will always update with the newest features. If you want to choose an application that is stable, that doesn't get updated beyond simple bug fixes, then you would type in version 1.0. So give your application a title. And tags again. And click Add Item when you've put all that in. Now you have this web application, and click on Settings in order to start configuring it. So the first thing you need to do is click Delete Protection. This just prevents someone else who's using your application from deleting it. And then there's actually a bug in ArcGIS, but here under Purpose, you need to change this to configurable again and press Save. And then you'll get this box called Configuration Parameters. And this part is a little bit technical, but if you follow it step by step, it's actually pretty simple. So we have this code for the map builder saved on GitHub, and we'll also send this link out later on. But you're just going to copy this code completely and make sure you get all of the information and paste it into this configuration parameters box. And you can expand this to make it a little easier to access. So now you see all of these lines that contain the different aspects of the map builder application that you can customize. So the first thing you'll see is up here it says web map. This is where you need to enter the ID of the web map that you created. And this requires you to go back to My Content, so open that in a new tab. And go back to the web map that you just created. And once you have that open in the URL, you'll see this ID equals and has a string of characters and numbers. So you're just going to copy that and go back to the configuration parameter box and just paste it right here. So that's the hardest part of this whole thing. But besides that, the rest of it is just going through and customizing each part of the application. So you can change the language, you can give your app a custom title. For example, we'll make this and then you can add a subtitle. I'll just keep this for now. You can add a narrative. So this is where you write something about your project or your app. And you'll see that show up when we actually open the map. The web map menu name is the menu title that you want to use for all of the data sets that you added to your web map in ArcGIS. So I'm going to keep this as land use because oil palm concessions are a form of land use. The next thing you can do is actually add a URL for your logo. So I have a URL open here, and I will just paste it in. Make sure that nothing is repeated. And then you can add links for where you want your logo to link to. So we're going to make this link to globalforestwatch.org. You can add a link for your About section. So if someone clicks on About, they'll go to a page. And you can actually also link to a data portal. If you have your information stored in a public place and you want your users of your web app to be able to download the data. One cool feature about the map builder is that you can actually add a second language like you saw in the Forest Atlas for the DRC. So if you're interested, you can add a second language here, and you'll need to type alternative language titles in that second language. And then down here where you see the different data sets from Global Forest Watch. So you can type true or false and select the data sets that you want to show up. So I'm going to change some of these because they're not relevant for Indonesia. Terra I alerts are only for South America, for example. We don't want mangrove information. So just type true or false here, and it'll update the data sets that show in your web application. For the ISO code, you can actually filter your web app to only show for a specific country. So I'm going to add the country code for Indonesia, and you can search for a country code easily in Google. Just type in the name of the country and ISO country code. And the last part down here is actually also like what Tomas showed on the Democratic Republic of Congo Forest Atlas. You can add other map IDs. So if you want to have sub-maps within your project that show other parts of what you're working on or different locations, you can add them here. And when you're done, press save. And you now have your application all configured. Really quickly, a reminder, if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to type them in the questions box. We actually have one question now. Do you want to answer it really quickly? So this question is, how often is this database updated? And is this resource accepted by the VCS or CCBA carbon standards to demonstrate that you're not responsible for deforestation in an area where you're starting reforestation projects on to claim carbon credits?
Okay, this goes back to the details. So first part of the question about the frequency of the data update. The data are updated as soon as new data sets become available, and it depends on the data set itself. So Carla was using right now the Indonesian oil palm concession data. These are updated frequently, but not directly through Global Forest Watch, but we receive data through different partners and we incorporate them into this data set as soon as we get new data sets. There are other data sets which we update ourselves very frequently. So for example, we have the glaad alerts, which are updated every week. These are deforestation alerts. They're currently available for Peru, Congo, and Indonesia. And towards the end of the year, we plan to have this data set available across the entire Pantropics. The fire data are updated daily. Other data sets like the annual deforestation alerts are updated every year, so as the carbon or the above ground biomass loss data, which are linked to the forest loss data, which we use, the annual forest loss data. So in terms of the question, if they are accepted by the VCS or CCBA carbon standard, actually, I can't answer this question. I doubt that this is accepted, but Global Forest Watch is very often considered as a baseline or as a reference for non-governmental organizations to validate if data posted by countries seems reasonable or not.
Yeah, and we can also get back to you with more details about that. Another question we have is explaining more about the submap. So I can just go back to the configuration parameters really quickly. And down here, it looks like it reformatted, but there's map theme IDs. So here you would enter, similar to what we did for the web map that we created, you have these IDs up here. So if you have multiple web maps that you want to include in your application, you just open each web map and you copy this ID and paste it in here.
This is actually not the map ID, but you would create different applications for all the different maps you want to show, and then you, in this case, you would copy the application ID here. So you create 2 or 3 applications, and then you link these applications among each other. So going back to the Forest Atlas example from DSC, you can see we have a web map here which shows a specific theme, and this and then this is stored inside an application which has also a unique ID, and here we linked in different applications which show different web maps inside. Like we link these different applications like via this menu.
Okay. Yeah, and we can also we'll follow up and provide more detailed answers to these. So let me go back to this. I'll just answer one more question now. So it looks like the sound cut out when I was going over the land use part. So the web map menu name is where you add a name for the as a menu for the data sets that you load from your web map. So in our web map, we added the data set, the Indonesia oil palm concessions data. So you'll see it when we open the app, but the menu name that the palm oil concessions data will be under will be called land use. So I could change this to just say concessions data, and then that's what would show up on the map.
Also a reminder that we are recording everything from our own computers, so anything where the video or sound has cut out will be available for you to view later in better quality. And again, we will be sending that link to the video on YouTube after the webinar.
So if you missed something, just go check it out after. Okay, so now you have your app set, and this is similar to what we did with the web map, but there's an app ID up here where it says ID equals, and you're going to need to copy this. This is kind of a workaround because of limitations with a public ArcGIS account, but if you click View Application, you go to mygfwmapbuilder.org, the basic URL that you typed in, and you type in question app ID equals, and then you paste that ID that you just copied from here. Actually, it looks like I forgot to set the app to be public. So here under the app location, you can press share and make the app public to everyone. So this shows you the different permissions that you can set. So let me reload this. There we go. So now you can see that data that I added from the web map. This is the custom logo that we added, the custom title, the information, and then under the layers here, you see these are all of the Global Forest Watch data sets that we've added. So if I turn on glaad alerts, then for this area, you can see the same data that you would see on Global Forest Watch. And here's that land use data that I was talking about. So this is where my oil palm concessions from Indonesia are stored. And here you can also adjust the transparency, get more information about them, and see the other data sets from Global Forest Watch. And then again, the same way that you can do this on Global Forest Watch, you can click on a shape and get information about it, and then also run an analysis. So this shows you how much tree cover loss happened in this area, and you can select other types of analyses that you want to do. One other feature is that you can also press print report and it'll give you a more in-depth analysis of this particular shape that you analyzed on the map. And in addition to analyzing shapes, you can also draw areas on the map that you want to analyze. So if you just want to do the kind of analysis that you do on Global Forest Watch, you can do that here as well. So that's building your own customized map builder application with a public account. And I will stop for a second to answer a couple more questions, and then I can go into how to do this with an organizational ArcGIS account. So let me see. Okay. How can you create a web map application for something other than a country, like a subnational area, a protected area, a region, etc.? So you can't put in an ISO code for a subnational area, but you can, all that does is just gray out the other parts of the map, like you see here. But if you zoomed into, for example, a really particular concession and you wanted to build a web map just around that concession, the map saves the zoom level. So you would just upload your data through the web map and then build all of your application customization around this area. Similar to what Tomas showed with the particular gold mining permits example. So this is built just around this one particular subnational area.
We can also, another way to ensure that you only show this data is also that you, for example, if you use Global Forest Watch data, that you filter the data and only show one feature. And one part which we haven't covered so far is you can actually also upload your own data into ArcGIS online. For example, if you have a shapefile, you can upload this shapefile onto the map, and this will be then also, you can style it and then also display it in your application.
There's a lot more features you can do with the map that you build in ArcGIS to begin with. So there's also great tutorials on ArcGIS about all the different things you can do to customize your web map, and then that'll go into your web application. Okay, moving on. So now we're going to do this whole thing again, but for organizational accounts. So if you don't have an organizational account, feel free to leave now, but you're also welcome to stay. And as a reminder, we'll send out an email after the webinar with all of the information and a recording. So if you want to do this at your own pace at home and follow along, you're welcome to do that afterwards. So I'm going to just reset, log out. Okay, so for those of you that have an organizational account, you're going to start by logging in with your organizational account. So just going to log into our Global Forest Watch account. And what you should see if you do have an organizational account is My Organization at the top. If you don't have this, you might not have an organizational account. And next you're going to click on Groups. The first step for organizational account users is actually to register the Map Builder template with your account so that you can load it as a web application template when you're creating web applications. So you're going to click on Create a Group and name the group Application Templates. And you can just type a short summary. This group contains application templates. It's really just for your own reference. Add some tags. And then you're going to want to change the status to organization so that other users within your organization can also access the template. And then press Save. Now, if you go to My Organization, you should see a button over here called Edit Settings. And if you don't see this, then you might not have the permission to actually add a template for your organization, in which case you need to ask an administrator from your organization to change that setting. But if you do see Edit Settings, you're going to go in here and go to Map. And then scroll down to where it says Configurable Apps, since you're creating a customizable app. And you want to change this from Esri default to application templates, so that the group you just created. And you also want to click next to share the Esri default configurable apps also, because you want to be able to see the Esri app options as well. Then click Save. And now you're going to search for the Global Forest Watch Map Builder template. So just use the search box up here and search for GFW Map Builder template. And make sure to uncheck this box where it says only search in, and it lists your group since you're searching for Global Forest Watch. And here you'll see the different versions of the Map Builder template. Like I said before, that we have different versions as we provide updates. And if you choose the version 1 latest, your application will always be updated as we fix bugs and add new features. But you might open your app and see a new feature that you're not familiar with, in which case you can go into the settings and edit it. But if you do want an application that is stable and doesn't have any changes, then you would choose the version 1.0 or 1.1 as it comes out. So we're going to choose the latest version. And you're going to click Share and share it with the application templates group that you just created. Then click OK. So now your template's been registered. So now if you go to My Content and select the web map, so this I pre-created a web map similar to the one that we used in our first demo. You're going to open the web map that you want to put into your web application and click, well, first make sure it's shared in the way you want, so either public or just limited to specific people, and then create web app using a template. And here you'll see all of the Esri or ArcGIS default application templates, but you'll also see the map builder template that we just registered. So now you're going to click Create Web App, and it autofills the information for you. Press Done. And now you get a much neater version of that same code configuration that we saw earlier. So this is where you can make those same changes that we made with the code, but it's neat in panels instead of in code. So you can give your application a title, and a subtitle, you can write a narrative about your map, and again, you'll need to put a title for the menu that all of your data sets coming from your web map are under. So I'll call this concessions this time. You need a URL to your logo again, and a URL where you want it to go. Etc. Again, you have the about and download sections. So press save, and you can actually preview what you just customized as you go along. So you'll see the logo here already, the title, and the new data menu that I created. And then that was just the general settings tab, and then here are the other tabs that you can edit. So this is, again, the alternative language section. So if you want to add a second language and allow your users to go back and forth between those languages as they're using your application, you can add that here. Here you have a simpler version of the settings for which data from Global Forest Watch you want to show. So for example, we don't want SAJ alerts or Terra because they're not relevant for Indonesia, and we don't want mangrove information, for example. So you can check whatever data you want to show from Global Forest Watch. And lastly, there's some advanced settings again. So we're going to change the ISO code to limit it to Indonesia, and you can then again, like Tomas mentioned, add other IDs of other applications you've created that you want to include. Once you're done, press save, and then close this. And now you can view your application. So this is your customized map builder application that you can share with anyone, and you have all of your data sets again, and you can do the analyses that you can also do on Global Forest Watch. And you can share this URL with anyone that you want to access your application. So that's building an application with an organizational account, and it looks like we have some questions. We have a question of whether the clean template builder is the only difference between the public and organizational accounts. It pretty much is. It had to do with some limits from ArcGIS about how you can configure your application. So all of the capabilities are the same.
Yeah. So just to add on this, so the capabilities of the application are the same in both the public version and the organizational version of ArcGIS Online. The only difference is the publishing workflow, so it's a bit easier to actually enter the data, and the online platform checks the code for you, so you avoid changes and break the code. And then the additional advantage of an organizational account is that it's easier to share with others. So in the public account, you can only make it public and then everyone sees it, or you have to use your own personal password to share it with others if you want to keep it private. Whereas in the organizational account, you can share it with different groups within your organization and have this password control level, like on group level.
There's another question. Is there a way to customize the URL?
There is a way to customize the URL. So if you, for example, look at the forest atlases, you see that we don't use map builder, but we use the forest atlas URLs. In that case, you will need to copy some of the data from map builder to to a server, like to a web server you control yourself. We have detailed information on how you do this in the how-to section of Map Builder on the Global Forest Watch website, and we're happy to provide a link in the wrap-up after the webinar.
And another question, is it possible to have more than one data menu? I think at the moment it's only possible to have that one, right?
Yes, so by default, like in this standard workflow, we try to keep this as simple as possible for you to manage this. So you create your web map, and everything which is inside your web map will be shown inside this data menu, and then it comes with the standard land cover dynamics, land cover, and base map menu sections, which are data coming from Global Forest Watch. And in this publishing process, you can check on and off certain data layers you want to show here. But you can't add an additional menu. Again, there are advanced options which will allow you to modify also this. But this is we're going to document this also in the how-to section, but these are advanced use cases, and I think this is not everyone wants to do this. So please refer to the how-to section and you will find detailed information on how to do that.
Great, and it looks like those are all the questions we have. So that's actually all we wanted to show you today. But thank you so much for joining us. And again, check out Global Forest Watch if you need some inspiration about your app that you want to create. We also have the Global Forest Watch map builder page under the developers corner on Global Forest Watch, where you can read more about Global Forest Watch and see some examples of these forest atlases that we mentioned. And you can actually submit your own map. If you've created an application that you want us to feature on Global Forest Watch, we're happy to do so. So thank you again for joining us today, and we'll follow up with an email that contains all the links that we've mentioned. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days.